Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Property AI Reports. This is your weekly digest of all things property and AI, brought to you by me, Mal McCallion, and my good friend and co-host, Matt Goddard. Matt, how are you today?
Good. Thrown by the lack of countdown on the start of the recording. I'm really good. How are you, Mel?
I'm really good. You're still just shuffling yourself sideways and making sure you're looking good in this video that we also record for those that are listening on audio. We are here. It's actually Saturday morning, so we're slightly late this week, mainly because Matt has been so busy. I'm blaming you. And yes, this was the only kind of slot we could basically find. We are here on this bank holiday, and we are going to get to some very big sort of AI news. We're going to look at the tool of the week, as we usually do. But first up, we're going to have a very long chat about our property news. And that's because in this week's property news, there is a lot to go at, isn't there, Matt? So we're going to start with the CRM wars. So this week has seen significant shots fired in the battle for the future, essentially, of the CRM market. So last week, we saw Reapit start to talk about RAI, their particular AI platform or additions to their platform. And we had Street launch this week, which was obviously teased quite heavily. Also last week, we had Rex come out this week. We've had Alto throw some stuff into the mix. So yeah, it is getting very, very noisy out there. And we are here with Matt's expertise to help you to navigate it somewhat. So what we're going to do, just starting off with a broad kind of idea of what it is they're trying to do. So essentially, they're trying to overlay on top of the CRMs that we are mostly familiar with, which basically store and enable you to analyze your properties, your buyers, sellers, tenants, landlords, the interaction between all of them within a system. And these systems have been relatively stable for 25 odd years. There's been some kind of new entrants and things like that have made things slightly more exciting. Street coming in about sort of 7-8 years ago. But the big change with AI is basically that instead of you and your humans going in and interacting with that data and making connections and trying to organize it, AI agents can do this. So agentic AI, which is basically where you tell an AI to go and find this data, find everybody in the last 6 months we've been out on evaluation for, and check it against the land registry to find out whether they've come to market, against one of the advertisers. So those are that's the kind of play that we're seeing right now. And obviously, if a CRM supplier can lock you into that with their AI agents on top, it is unlikely that you are going to move. It's unlikely anyway. It's so sticky. But yeah, Matt, this is a really, it's not quite existential for all of these CRMs, but they're certainly kind of treating it like that, right?
I was trying to remember the term that was used last week in one of the PR shots. I think it's something along the lines of, I'll do what you do and lower my voice and make it all sound like big and like I'm doing a voiceover for a film. But
is that what I do?
The industry will never be the same.
Yes.
But it's good to see. We spoke about this last week with Salesforce 360 being announced and the first mention of sort of headless CRMs, but good to see the CRMs in our industry started to engage with that, right? And, Street, as we talked about last week, we've had their big announcement coming this Monday just gone, and it was all the things you'd expected. Very impressive, very slick. Tom did a great job of talking through how people could build their own agents. Unfortunately, as you alluded to at the start, and threw me under the bus, as my in-law would refer to that sort of movement. But
you're welcome.
I've not been able to really listen to the Alto announcement, but I did have quite a good chat with Nick Shaw at Alto, who was telling me all the different partners that they were bringing in. So it sounds more like the partners are doing the AI rather than sort of agents, builders inside Street, for example. And then, as you touched on, Rex is in there. I think it's great to see that, and it's definitely the direction of travel. I think the challenge at the moment is for agents is where they struggle to configure their own CRM and get email templates working the way they will. Is this another burden on top? Which I've just realized, as I said, that is great for a business like mine, GCG, in terms of helping agents configure and set up their tech, right? But no, genuinely,
exactly.
It's a really interesting one, because even on Streets on Monday, as we've talked about before, data is the fuel for AI, and there's scenarios where you want to be looking at propensity signals based on interactions with Mal from 18 years ago when he first rented a home or whatever it might be. And a lot of these migrations from one CRM to the other, there's almost that it'll just leave your data behind and let's get quickly over to a new one. And you're effectively cutting off that entire business, right?
And this is, we were talking off air, and we actually talked for a very long time off air. We were like, we should be talking about this on air. about that sort of data piece, because you're absolutely right. That data is absolute gold, and particularly in the world of AI, your own proprietary data is going to be one of the things that sets you apart as a business from your competitor businesses. So, whether that is just pure longevity, you've been around, for 50 years longer than anybody else, so you will have stuff that they don't have, whether it is in dusty filing cabinets and you can then digitize it using AI, it's still data that you've got, or whether it is breadth, so actually you've been managing to capture, more and more information about sort of triggers and things like that. And, there's other systems out there, like you've got Lifecycle, for example, which again has been kind of into this AI stuff right from very, very early on, and have done really, really well with a lot of agents that we speak to as well. But that's much more of a closed kind of system. So there's no kind of, it's what they got and nothing else almost. But again, amazing stuff. So I do think that that this data piece is really quite key. And again, I wasn't quite fully aware of just how hard it is to move data between the systems. I thought that in the end, you kind of got your old data into the new system. But again, you've got the expertise, and apparently it's something that a lot of agents don't necessarily bring with them because it's too hard, right?
That's it. And it sort of elongates the migration. So without boring everyone to tears, but it's a case of, even everyone thinks of Reaper as really heavily customized, configurable database system, CRM. But actually, even the old ones like CFP would have custom data fields that you wanted to drag across, because it's a flag that says that the landlord is deceased or something similar, which might look like a small portion of your data, but actually it's really important. Or even non-resident landlord status being another one you want to make sure you get right, because there's obviously massive implications and they're not consistent. So you end up sort of triaging those on an ongoing basis, I'm sure. AI is going to be able to help with that and sort of flag when things aren't right, but it's those iterations that you have to go to make sure you pull it over. And a lot of people seem to be moving more to, let's just to get migrated quickly and onto this flash new system. Let's leave everything behind.
Yeah,
well, I'm sure we'll see. You'll obviously watch closely how that plays out in the future.
100%. So yeah, if anybody listening out there, do not lose your data. And again, I'm certain that all of the CRMs, particularly the new ones, will be working really hard to make sure you can bring that data across. But yeah, I think if there's one thing that I would absolutely recommend is that you find, obviously some of the legacy ones are now bringing out some amazing stuff. So that's really cool. Alto was out this week as well, as was Repeat. So that some of those the more long-standing ones are now bringing some crazy new tech into play as well. But yes, obviously with the newer ones, which are exceptional technologically. Yeah, I'm certain, as I say, that they are looking at how they can make sure that data comes across, because it is going to be absolutely critical, I think, going forwards for differentiating that you have this extra information buried deep. So yeah, CRM wars. We've got portal wars, we've got CRM wars. There's wars everywhere. And I think it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out. Again, this has been 1 week where they have been throwing absolute, missiles at each other. And it's going to be very interesting to see how it all plays out in the very near future. All right, next up, we want to go to stats. So Voice of the Agent, beginning of the week, which feels like a very long time ago, released their part 3 of the Voice of the Agent report, Simon Ledbetter and the Unchained Marketing guys, and basically saying that the people who are looking for property in the property market are far more likely to be using AI than the general population. Okay, so actually people who are searching for property are using AI to search for property much more than they're using it to, search for saucepans or whatever, because it's such an important purchase, and actually people discover that you can find out so much more using AI. So I just thought this was really fascinating and something that again, if you look at the broad numbers, you might assume that it's only 25% of people that are using AI in their general day to day, but actually that bumps up to kind of 35 to 40% in the property market, where people are looking for properties and they're looking and doing research of their agents, and they're looking at areas and stuff like that and schools. So I just think that again, for agents, this is something that they really need to kind of pay attention to, right, Matt?
Indeed. And I was just trying to flick through there and find out what the demographic profile of respondents was to this, is because being out and about this week, and the reason that I've been so busy is we've got Ray White, Australia New Zealand's biggest estate agent, over at the moment. We're doing a bit of a study tour with them and their technology nurture cloud. So I've not had a chance to properly read this. But what I have realized is that obviously you and I speak regularly about this. We consume podcasts and read various articles and speak about it on a minute to minute basis. And then the people we engage with want to do that. People listening to podcasts would be doing the same. But actually, I've gone into software businesses this week where they didn't even realize that Gemini was on a par with Anthropic and OpenAI, or even
Wow.
ahead at times. It's like, well, that's been well over a year that they've been in that box seat. So I was just trying to flip through and see if what that demographic was on the people responding to this, because I know that, as I say, people I speak to would absolutely be searching for property in that way, but it may well not be that the guys who live next door will be doing the same thing. Do you have quickly off the top of your head know what the demographic of the respondents is?
So this has asked, it's just general consumers. So I don't know if there's any kind of specific. I think so. It's a sample. What do they call it? Significant sample size or whatever. That is enough to kind of be able to draw conclusions from, which generally means it's more than 1,000. So yeah, no, I think it's statistically significant is the phrase, and just general kind of people active in the property market. So yeah, look, I think it sounds very robust, and yeah, I just think that agents and anybody listening out there who's interested in the property market and is looking to speak to people who are active, consumers who are active in the property market, just need to kind of make sure that they are using these tools, that they are able to actually find them. Sorry,
bless you.
Just hay fever, which we were talking about earlier on.
Yeah, I jinxed it, didn't I?
So apologies to listening in. We may cut that bit out. Yeah, I just think that there is any agent out there listening in, anybody involved in the property market, anybody looking to interact with these people needs to themselves get across, at the very least, what do you ask ChatGPT for when you're looking for property? What do you ask Gemini for? What do you ask Claude for? And see what the differences are, and just kind of get a real kind of handle on how good these things are now, because they may be coming at you with information that you don't have, and that would not be a very good thing, bearing in mind they're paying you generally often for the expertise that you have. So yeah, so that was just really fascinating from a statistical point of view. A couple more things we just want to make sure we cover off in our property news. We're going to combine it into market news, but it's a lot of the market news is about the government, basically, and the fact that Rachel Reeves and her Treasury people let it be known that they were considering rent freezes. Matt, where do we begin?
It's got to be signalling, right? We've got the local elections coming up. What did you call it before? Flagging, and to sort of say, this is something to do to get some voters on board, and then immediately get told, no, we're not doing that. So it's maybe not gone down as well. Obviously, it wouldn't go down well in Ireland, especially when we've got the Renters' Rights Act kicking in yesterday, and everybody's
my God.
Head down, tin hat on, trying to deal with what's going on.
It's just so, it's literally like, every single time you're just about going, right, okay, we kind of know where that is. It's like, here's another thing. And then, of course, like 2 days later, they're rowing back on it and going, no, that's a crazy idea. We're not going to do that, because they've heard the feedback. And it's like, well, just shut up. It's obvious that that's going to be what's going to happen. But because, the majority, they're looking at renters and going, right, that's a much bigger cohort of voters than landlords or estate agents or whatever, lettings agents. But it's just so boring. It's just so annoying. Like, just kind of let it go.
It dovetailed nicely with, or not so nicely for the government, with Rightmove announcing that actually rent's cheaper than mortgages for the first time since, was it June 2025? Again, I remember rent controls got introduced in Scotland, and it's like the government, in fact, any time the government gets involved in market forces, it's not, it's a worry, isn't it? And they brought rent controls in, specifically focused on Aberdeen, and then suddenly Aberdeen's whole sector took a hit because the oil industry started to decline up there. And so it's like we made these changes, get brought in a load of administration, and it's no longer needed.
Exactly right. And the reason why rents are cheaper than mortgages is because of interest rates, right? Because they're going up because of the war. And so actually it's not that they're both, one's going cheaper, it's just that the other one is overtaking it because of market forces or because of macroeconomic forces that aren't controllable either. So yeah, it's everybody, I know the government listens into this. Please, can you just stop? Right, just for a bit. It'd be really nice. Thank you. All right. So also in our market news, we're going to segue into just really interesting about 20EA has released more stats, and we love 20EA and we love their stats. And they're talking about the biggest brand in the UK estate agency, and it is, for I think the third year running, or at least the third kind of half year running, EXP. And so congratulations to those guys continuing to absolutely, power away more than any traditional brand. Again, when you kind of look at the individual specific brands, I think they're still only about 2.8% of the market, but even still, as a brand punching really hard and continuing to grow. But the stat that I thought was really interesting was actually the and again, this 20 AI, genuine data, that EXP takes 171 days from listing to completion versus the average market of 194 days. And so that, on the face of it, it's like, once you get over 150 days, it's like, my God, that's still just way too long. But actually, that's nearly a month. That's like 23 days. And I was trying to work out like why that might be. And I was thinking, well, this self-employed idea where actually you're sitting there and it's, it is on you to make sure this happens because you personally, it's not your brand that's going to get impacted by it, it's you. So actually, actually knitting together all these different strands and kind of making it happen just seems like that's the most likely explanation. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? That actually this kind of self-employed model does seem to kind of potentially drive this this need / desperation to make sure that that these deals go through.
The other consideration I had on that one, I don't know where their 900 odds, not calling them odds, roughly 900 agents are actually based. I don't see much presence for EXP in London. And I know quite a lot of people who are certainly ex-colleagues of mine who are running it. And there's always that, well, you don't see much about EXP because the boards aren't allowed to be put up in certain areas.
Yeah.
But whether that leasehold versus freehold, which we know dramatically impacts the sort of sales progression process, is also a dynamic in there.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, and you're right. It might actually be kind of repelling people from setting up on their own in that area because it's just too complicated. But interestingly, to refer to conversations from two weeks ago for an episode a couple of weeks ago, Knight Frank now launching associates in various parts of the country. From Parker, we've got Movelli, you've got By Design, dealing with that top end of the market. So, I think there's a lot still to play out here. And the fact that, again, the Knight Frank is getting involved, Stratton Parker is getting involved in these associate / self-employed models, I think just shows that they're reading the room and seeing the direction of travel of a lot of future growth. All right, that is our property news for this week. Let us dive into our AI and tech news. All right, so having exhausted ourselves with many new models over recent times, we said last week we were going to do a bit of a deeper dive into ChatGPT 5.5, which landed literally the kind of day that we went live last week. So I've had a bit of play with it, and I think it's good. It's good. Having had Claude Opus 4.7 a couple of weeks before, I don't think it's necessarily got the big uplift that it would have done if it arrived on its own. But yeah, it's good. I think the image stuff is good. We'll talk a little bit about that more in a sec. But it didn't blow me away. It's got some great stuff about agents, AI agents, agentic AI. But again, because I'm kind of already using OpenClaw and I've got this team of AIs that, one of them is a finance AI, one of them is an operational AI, one of them's marketing, one of them's strategy and mentoring. And, I'm kind of already in there and I'm not suggesting that I'm far away from anybody, but it's just like it doesn't feel as much of a massive jump as it would have done before the Claude Opus. And so, Matt, I think in your busy week, you're probably unlikely to have been able to come across it. Got any thoughts?
I actually think where maybe the differentiator on 5.5 is actually what is powering within Codex and where that powerful sort of agentic, specifically across coding and engineering. But also, do you remember when Claude Code started and everyone was like, well, it's a code thing, I stay clear of it. And then slowly over time, I heard, well, project managers are using Claude Code because it can use your local machine and tool use. And eventually Cowork appeared after, was it 11 days of being built by Claude Code?
Yeah.
Codex is starting to shift towards that as well. And feedback I'm hearing, people using Codex not just for coding and sort of taking a similar step. So where I think 5.5 seems to be really strong is in more that swarm of agents and how it's much more capable in those areas rather than maybe the sort of the non-agentic processes that we see people using it for.
Yeah. So again, from the coding side of things, I obviously we now build things because we can using agentic AI, using AI agents, which is great. But yes, I guess I've just kind of fallen into the Claude hole and don't necessarily look at Codex on the OpenAI side. I do like saying the word swarm though, so I think we should carry on doing that as much as possible. Swarms of agents. Good. So next up, let's look a little bit more in some of the detail that's happened over the week. Because I'm a massive gossip, I wanted to get involved with the Elon Musk has taken the stand versus OpenAI. And so there's this court case over in the States. And Elon Musk is suing OpenAI and his fellow co-founders of OpenAI because, again, those that have been listening for a while may remember that actually Elon Musk helped found OpenAI with Sam Altman. They had a massive falling out. Elon went off and set up XAI, and OpenAI is now a competitor to XAI. And basically, there was a lot that kind of indicates that Elon Musk is just doing this just to cause them problems, basically, as a competitor. But he's basically saying that they've lied to him and they've kind of stolen his charity and blah, blah, blah. Lots with Elon on the stand this week over the last 3 days. I know, Matt, you've been way too busy to bother with any of this fluff, but I'm going to tell our listeners about it anyway. But yes, so essentially, Elon Musk has been up on the stand, because he's on the stand, he's had to say actually had to deny some of the stuff he's been claiming on Twitter literally like weeks before. So one of the things he was saying was that on Twitter was on X was that Tesla is building AGI, so artificial general intelligence, which is where intelligence becomes as good as humans. And then on the stand, he was asked directly by OpenAI's legal team, is Tesla building AGI? He went, no. So, it just speaks to how he's often slightly ahead of reality when it comes to the stuff that he says. And when we look at in the context of some of his more extraordinary statements about, how quickly we're going to get to Mars and, how quickly we're going to get data centers in space, I just thought that was quite an interesting moment. But yes, the other people who are going to feature in this trial is Greg Brockman, who is the president of OpenAI. His diaries have been out there, part of the whole kind of information piece. So that's going to be difficult, I think, for him as well. So yeah, look, anybody who's likes to get their popcorn out and watch some very, very rich billionaires swinging at each other, this is the show that is going to go on for another few weeks yet.
The Brockman diary sounds like a really, really crap film, doesn't it?
Yes, with some protagonist who spends a lot of time just sucking their pens and thinking hard, looking into the distance. Yeah,
that's it. And someone popping up saying, "I'm Inigo Montoya, you will die." That's a very niche reference for people listening.
Good luck, everybody. So that's the gossip side. Back into the serious side. Anthropic has received lots and lots of interest this week, as it usually does. Basically being valued, it says, at $900 billion, Google investing up to $40 billion in cash and compute, looking at potentially might get another 50 billion raise. Matt, this is going nuts, isn't it? Anthropic is everywhere.
But it's great because apart from this story and the Elon Altman clash, it's actually been quite weak for the biggies. It is that the biggest part of this really is the fact that this is putting them ahead of OpenAI in terms of that valuation, isn't it? It's nearly $1 trillion, and they're not going to struggle. I think it's already been oversubscribed in terms of people looking to get involved. So it really is a battle that's up, and that's in a week where I said it's been quiet, but Anthropic and its mythos has actually been used properly and confirmed by the American government again. And I know we alluded to that last week, but they are going strong, and it's not just the flash in the pan that maybe OpenAI was saying was going to be.
Yeah, exactly right. It just, I don't think anybody, if you looked a year ago, say, would have seen Anthropic being valued at more than OpenAI. That just wasn't, it didn't seem possible. And yet they've executed so well. Their releases have been so frequent and so great. I go back to Claude Design. Honestly, if you haven't used it, go and play it. It's insane. And it's just that they just continue to make very good decisions. This whole mythos thing is really obviously quite intriguing and has kept them their profile up to the point that I think that's basically unlocks the argument that they were having with the government, the US government. They've now realized that actually they can't really have them down as this kind of enemy of the people or enemy of the state or anything like that, because that's just going to, that's too problematic for them. So I think it's going to be I think Anthropic is basically valued now as if it's like the infrastructure for AI going forwards. And I think that's just going to be something that is really difficult for some of the other competitors, OpenAI, XAI, to kind of come to accept. And even though they're fighting in court, actually they probably need to get themselves back out into the market and do some more stuff here.
I think that's the only thing that's going to be a potential limiting factor for them, right, in terms of the surge and powering ahead, is the fact that they don't have their own infrastructure. So it's great that Google are putting money in, but you might have looked at when Sam Altman suddenly went off on a tangent, or seemingly off on a tangent, however long ago it was, and started getting their own infrastructure. And obviously Zuckerberg's doing similar. It's now a race for resource, isn't it? Which we know from Claude being limited is a challenge. So very much, if you were listening to this, you'll be doing it anyway, but we're watching this space.
Yeah, 100%. All right, that is our AI and tech news for this week. Let us dive into our tool of the week. Matt, we were looking very much at kind of remote agents here, with something called Vibe, which is from Mistral. Now, we don't talk about Mistral very much, possibly not enough, but they're a French large language model. They're pretty good. Not terrible by any means, but they're European. They don't have quite the clout. They don't have quite the skills. They don't have quite the engineers that they have over in Silicon Valley. But It is the best of kind of European. And they've released this idea of remote agents via Vibe. And we think that this is something that people should just have a little look at, right?
That's it. There's a similar, I guess, to going back to the top of the show, where the agency CRMs are starting to build out and allow you to build agentic workflows. Having a look at Mistral. We touched on it last week with Elon Musk pulling his AI Avengers together with the acquisition of Cursor and doing some relationship with Mistral. But just as you say, because we don't talk about the European ones that often, there is a tool in here. It was very close between them and Manus, who Manus, for listeners of the show, were acquired by Meta. And this week, the Chinese government has said, absolutely no, we're going to block that and it needs to be rolled back.
Unwound.
Manus have also launched a cloud agents to take on OpenClaw and Perplexity computers. So well worth checking out both Mistral and Vibe, plus also Manus and their computer use.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. We'll do a bit more digging onto Manus, which still remains one of our little favorites, and have a little look at what that all means in next week's show. All right, that is all we have time for. We will just, anybody who hasn't been playing around with ChatGPT's image generator and doing the old paint prompt, and we will drop that in the show notes, and you can kind of go and have a little play with that. Perhaps our idents this week will be of using that particular tool. But yes, Matt, thanks very much indeed for making time this Saturday on a bank holiday. Have you got a nice busy one, or are you taking it easy after your hectic week?
I'm continuing the charge. I've been very lucky. I'm going to see Arsenal v Fulham this afternoon, and then I'm up in Liverpool watching Everton v Man City on bank holiday Monday. So it's going to be good fun.
You're going to be knackered.
I'm doing one title race and you're watching the other title race, right?
That's right, yeah. So Ipswich today, it's all about, we're playing QPR. If we win, we go up into the Premier League. And if we don't, then either Borough or Millwall will do it as well. So yeah, it's nearly 10 o'clock. There's like only two and a half hours until we really get stuck into it. So yes, wish me luck, everybody. We'll be back next week when all of that will have been decided, and we will know. So yes, if I'm not there, then you'll know why. Anyway, have amazing weeks. And we look forward to catching up with you in 7 days. All the best. Take care.
Take care, everyone.